Hello, I'm David Hughes. Welcome to Your Perfect Body, the podcast of the esoteric teaching community. Today's selection is a special program entitled This is the Moment. There comes a moment in everyone's life when they have an opportunity to hear transcendental knowledge from a self-realized soul. How you value this moment and what you do with this knowledge is a function of your ontology. Remember, we discussed in previous podcasts how a sufficiently robust ontology allows you to value the spiritual experiences that most people tune out. So here is an opportunity to hear some very special knowledge. I am going to read a few verses from the ancient Vedic scripture Bhagavad Gita and then comment on them according to our understanding so far. And since these comments are extemporaneous, they're only included in the podcast. So if you know anyone who reads the blog, ask them to download the podcast and they'll get the complete material. So these verses are from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The second chapter of Bhagavad Gita kind of summarizes the entire piece, and it also gives a great deal of knowledge about the nature of the soul. And as you recall, in our work so far, we've been discussing the nature of the soul, the nature of consciousness, which is the primary symptom of the soul, and how our consciousness gets mixed up with this material body, which is an incompatible situation because the consciousness and the soul are eternal, whereas the material body is temporary. So any effort that we invest in trying to perfect the material body is basically going to be wasted. And so we need a new perspective, we need a new ontological point of view on our existence and who we are. That will help us find our real perfect body. So the Gita provides this. In the beginning of the Gita, Arjuna is a big general in a huge army about to begin a major battle. And he's having second thoughts. He doesn't want to go through with the battle. So he's talking to his charioteer, who happens to be Krishna, his dear friend. And he says, "Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me." So everyone has a moment like this in their life. A moment when they're facing what seems to be an overwhelming catastrophe. And if it hasn't happened to you yet, trust me, it will. If it hasn't happened in the ordinary course of life, certainly it'll happen at the moment of death, when we're facing an abyss of inconceivable dimensions, and we have no guarantee of what is going to happen or what is on the other side. Well, this happens to every fighting man every time he goes into a battle. And it happened to Arjuna at the Battle of Kurukshetra. So, in a moment like that, one becomes extremely aware of the fragility of life and of the uncertainty of the outcome and so many things. And one wants to reach out for support and help. And who better to reach out to than the self-realized soul? In this case, it's Krishna, the original self-realized soul. Arjuna is very fortunate to have Krishna as his friend. But in most people's lives, they're not quite so fortunate, but they may know or know someone who knows a person who can help them in a situation like this. And that is the self-realized soul or teacher. So at that time, when Arjuna was in need, he was very fortunate to have Krishna sitting right there in the chariot with him. It was a setup, of course. But when Arjuna inquired from Krishna, at that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. Why was Krishna smiling? Have you ever seen a picture of Krishna? He has this little smile. The only thing I can compare it to is maybe the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa has this cryptic, enigmatic little smile. People have speculated for centuries about the meaning of that smile. Well, Krishna's smile is like that. Krishna's smile is beguiling. It's very attractive. It's like that little smile that a very beautiful woman has when she knows that everyone is watching her. And the reason Krishna has this smile is because he's fully self-realized. His position is unassailable. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he has nothing to worry about. Anyway, Krishna was smiling because Arjuna, his friend, had asked him for advice. And that's always a nice thing. When one's friends ask one for advice, we all like that. But Krishna is especially happy because Arjuna is doing this in the midst of two opposing armies. So Krishna spoke to comfort him in such a way that both armies could hear him, both the friends and the foes. That means that this advice that Krishna gave is for everyone. It's universal panacea. It's for friends, it's for enemies. It's for the good, it's for the bad, the rich, the poor, the wise and the foolish. Everyone can benefit from what Krishna is about to say. So what does he say? While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. What does this mean? Well, we all like to speak learned words and display our intelligence. But at the same time, we often mourn. We lament for what we have lost. And we pine for what we desire. And both of these are not the kinds of words spoken by the wise. The wise, as Krishna says, lament neither for the living nor the dead, neither for themselves nor for others, neither for that which is lost nor that which has not yet been gained. The wise are content. They're full in themselves. And because they know who they really are, and they have realized their perfect body. So having realized that, there's no cause for lamentation, no matter what happens to this material body. We all know this material body is temporary. It's going to be vanquished sooner or later. One day, this body is just going to fall down dead. There's no reason to lament about that because the body is not the self. And Krishna emphasizes that in his next verse where he says, "Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be." In other words, I am an individual. You are an individual. All these people here are all individual spirit souls. And there was never a time when these souls were created. These souls don't live in time. They live in eternity. Therefore, creation or dissolution is not something that they will ever experience. Let's try to think about that for a little bit. It's said, everything that has a beginning has an end. But what about something that doesn't have a beginning? What about something that exists in eternity, not in time? Just like the sun comes up in the morning at a certain point in the horizon,